Hey guys, it has been a massive week for me, and I'm here again with my amazing friend, host, Stephen. How are you tonight, mate? I am a little bit delirious. As I said, it's been a massive week, but I'm super excited to have a very, very cool creator on tonight. I've looked up to him. He's bagged the shit out of me several times.
And probably rightly so, by the way.
I look forward to bringing him out and maybe getting a couple of cheap shots in as well. So, but how's your week been, man?
Look, it's getting really crazy, actually. I mean, the weekend's gone way too quickly. I'm looking forward to. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, well, but Easter's coming up, so I'm hoping to get a couple of days off there where it's just you tune out. I did watch Spider-Man this weekend, so I've been really slow to the party. I've been avoiding all the spoilers. I didn't knew a lot of the actors cameoed back in, that it was in the trailers and stuff like that. But I was a lot better than expected to be. I went in with very low expectations, and I loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have to say, my film this week, I watched Scream.
I saw that too.
I loved it. It is almost as good as the first one, and I love the first one. Like I can do it word for word, the whole film. So I was very surprised at how much I actually liked this film.
But the one thing I love about Scream, and I wish, looking back, the other one which really disappointed me was Matrix, the latest Matrix movie, and it's a masterclass. This Scream 2022 or Scream 5, whatever you want to call it, it was actually a masterclass on how to do what they call a requel. Sequel, repeat. It's a masterclass of how to do it, introduce new characters, and Matrix is a masterclass of what not to do. And it was just the difference on how they approach the subject matter. And it was the same idea, basically. You know what? We're bringing new characters in. We're handing over the old characters over. Here's what we're going to do about it. Matrix butchered it. Absolutely.
Yeah. We won't talk too much about it because it hasn't been out for that long, so we don't want to spoil it for people.
No, I'm not saying the ending.
But it's definitely going to be one that I want to talk about in the future because it was you're 100% right there on all of those points, and I'd like to do a show about that. But before we bring out our amazing guest, I do just want to remind people to please hit that subscribe button and smash that notify bell. We go live each Sunday night at 10 p.m. We do movie reviews, we have awesome guests, and we also do some Kickstarter tips and tricks. And tonight is going to be an amazing one because we have not only a writer but an editor. So we've got the writer of Belial, Welcome to the Void, and Essence House, as well as editor for such works as Scout Comics, Cat and Dad, Second Sight's Freak Show Night, Savage Sasquatch, oh my God, I can't even say the rest.
It's a long list, isn't it?
Cthulhu Invades Oz and so much more. But he's my Canadian brother from another mother. Chuck, mate, how are you tonight?
I'm awake. I feel bad for your audience, though, because you hyped them up. You were like, oh, we have great guests. And then like, yeah, we're going to bring out this hairy bastard. Like, oh, no.
They're used to the hair, mate. They're used to the hair. So that's a plus. That's a plus on the show.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good. Well, then I'm glad I could help.
Look, let's say hi to the two people in the chat right now. So if you want to pop them up.
We've got Grace. Hello.
What's up, Grace?
And Sazagal. How are we going tonight? So, Chuck, we have you all the way from the US, even though you're a Canadian. But I'm super excited if, I've known you for a while. You're very big within the independent comic book scene. But for our little island over here, can you kind of just give like just a brief of kind of what you do. Like, a lot of those titles that I've said there, especially like, people will know who Scout Comics are and Second Sight Publishing are. But how did you get into comics and everything to begin with?
It's funny. I've always been a writer. My wife and I actually met on a writing website back in '99. We made our own online role-playing game where it was all done through writing and whatnot, and moderators and such. And so writing has just been something that I've always been attracted to and loved the idea of building storyline and interesting characters and all that kind of stuff. And so I always wanted to do it, but it was kind of on the back burner. And I found when I moved to America, I suddenly didn't have that strong group of friends that I'd always had, and I didn't kind of have this amazing life to kind of distract me. And suddenly I was like, I got to do something, and I just ended up getting into the writing and all that kind of stuff. Got to Kickstarter and found out, oh, no one knows who I am. Like, nobody knows who I am whatsoever. What am I going to do in order to sell this stuff, in order to make a fan base? And actually, the creator of Cat Dad and Supermom from Scout Comics, he approached me. We didn't know each other at the time. He actually didn't approach me. Sorry. He approached the general internet and said, I need an editor who is willing to work for free. And I was like, man, I understand the basics. So, and for free, that's what you get is the basics, right? So I was like, yeah, man, what I don't know, I'll learn. But I mean, I understand English and all the general stuff that you're going to need. So yeah, I'm in. And I did that. And we ended up doing tons of projects together. And then I just really fell in love with editing and just kind of leaned into it, learned as much as I can. Picked up as much as I could and whatnot, and just flew forward with that. And I still write, but I definitely am much more prolific and known much more for editing than I'm for writing.
I was going to say, because at the moment, if you go onto Kickstarter, I reckon there's 3 or 4 projects at any one time. 4, there you go.
4 right now, yeah.
That you're actually a part of. And as soon as one drops off, it's like another one comes out. And for all your comic creators out there, we're not going to delve too much into it now, but we are going to delve into that a little bit later and actually really talk about why it's important to have an editor, what the process is and all that type of stuff. But before we get to that, our movie for this week is Free Guy.
Yeah.
So you chose this. Why did you choose this movie to talk about?
I was super hyped for this movie. It was just everything I saw about it. I was like, this is going to be an awful lot of fun. I really want to check it out. And then the second it came out, I heard that it had come out on Disney Plus. I was like, yes, let's do it. Let's watch it. And I loved it. It was a beautiful, fun tale. Never was bored. Never. In fact, I did end up having to step away from it at one point, like stop the movie, which is the best part about streaming, right? Stop the movie and move on with my life and come back to it later. And even when I came back to it later, I didn't feel lost, left behind, anything. It was wonderful. So much fun. And actually there was a couple points where I felt like they stepped away from common tropes. And I was really excited by that.
Yeah, I have to say that I was really surprised that you picked this, but I love this because for me, I hadn't heard much about it. I had seen the advert for it because I've got Disney streaming, of course, but I just felt like this movie had no right to be as good as it was. Like that's what really surprised me. I'm like, the premise. I love Ryan Reynolds, and I'll pretty much watch him in anything that he does. But I was like, oh look, this will be good, but I was nowhere near expecting it to be great and not actually engrossed in the film. And I 100% agree with you there on some of the tropes and everything on there. It was not what I was expecting. So I was like, oh, this is cool. This is different. And I think that's the cool thing. There's not a lot of, films that I feel kind of don't give me what I'm expecting. I've watched so much stuff these days that I'm just like, okay, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And, yeah, that's a cool story, but, I've seen it all before. But that was not this at all, especially considering I'd seen Boss Level, which I didn't mind either. And I thought that this was going to be very similar to that. So to actually be quite different, I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like we actually all have seen this movie before. What separates it from those movies we have seen before, and I think what really takes this to the level that we have enjoyed it as much as we have, is the character relationships. This movie did character relationships better than probably, any movie that I can think of off the top of my head. Guy and his best friend, the security guard, then the two developers in the background, and then of course even the developers and Taika Waititi's bad guy had this relationship as well. Like everyone had these relationships, and those relationships were so integral to making this just such a fun, enjoyable movie. You got to live through them, and you really got to feel all them. And I think you were talking about masterclasses earlier, S. This was a masterclass in relationships, this movie.
Yep. No, look, I totally agree with you. And in terms of what I loved about this is standard hero's journey trope. If you want to talk about tropes, the standard hero's journey, the guy who basically builds himself to the end. Again, like Boss Level, or Edge of Tomorrow, that type of thing. It's exactly that. But like you said, the characters are so lovable. Like, I love Ryan Reynolds, and it makes it fun. And like you said, you want to see how Ryan Reynolds reacts. And not just Ryan Reynolds going through his arc. Nearly every character has their own little arc as well, which, again, not spoiling anything, what the latest Matrix movies doesn't even bother doing, which was really horrible. It was like, even the arc where Neo and Trinity, those are horrible arcs they went through, which had no investment. You didn't care about the arc they went through. And not just that, every other peripheral character, you didn't care about. They had no arcs. While in this movie, everybody had an arc which you cared about, which was important to the movie, which if this character didn't do this arc, this wouldn't happen, and the ending would be different. And it's the main thing with all these movies is, and if you know you've done the character well, remove the character from the movie and see whether they have the same ending. And if you remove nearly any character from Free Guy, it would have a different ending, 100% different ending.
Yeah.
100%, because even with the security guard, you take him out, you take out him actually trying to change people's decisions. And what I loved about this is it's about relationships, but it's also about choices. And that's what I really liked about it. It's about you making a choice to do something different, to stand up, to, you can, we all kind of go through our daily lives and kind of, get stuck in the mundane stuff of everything. But this really goes to show you that if you want to be special, if you want to do something special, then you just need to make the choice to actually do that. And everything else kind of after that is just an effect from you making that choice to begin with, which I also really liked about this.
I think what was really special also, and this is like a slight spoiler, so guys, if you do want to watch it, maybe just plug your ears for a second, but I felt like towards the end, you started to feel like, oh, Ryan's somehow gonna end up with the girl, and that was the obvious ending. That was the kind of obvious way for them to go, and they didn't do that, and they built to something that I felt was actually much more beautiful. And because it wasn't that obvious, he somehow ends up with the girl, blah blah blah. Like they didn't have to do that. And I feel like so many other Hollywood stars, they would have had to have ended up with the girl. They had to, it's like the possession. And this wasn't like that at all. It was like, no, that this movie's not about that. And I felt like that made the ending and the whole movie that much more beautiful, that didn't happen.
Yeah, and understanding those relationships, as you said, like I always go back to the director's cut of Daredevil, like where he does not get with Elektra at all in that movie, and it was the Fox Studios that were like, oh, he has to get the girl, he can't not get the girl, but I'm like, you fundamentally don't even understand the relationships between the characters because it is about him loving someone that he can't have because she is on the opposite side of the law. He is, trying to uphold and do the right thing. And he understands that, he loves her, but she's doing the wrong things for the right reasons. But that's not a good enough reason for them to be together. And it's like, how can you get that relationship so fundamentally wrong? And that's as you said, like you come back to this and go that they have really thought about how each character affects one. And I'd never heard what you said before, Stephen, but I love that. If you took out one character, would it change the ending of a movie? And I love that, and I think I'll watch a few movies now thinking of that because it's a really interesting way to go, okay, well, did that character even need to kind of be there? So,
well, and to segue into what we're eventually going to talk about, and that is editing, start reading your comics that way. Look at your own books and go, hey, what if I took this character out? What would, I mean, it's so funny because we look at movies and comics so differently, but guys, this is all story. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Obviously, it does need to be played slightly differently because of how the mediums work, but that doesn't mean that, the absolutes have to be ignored or treated differently. So yeah, I would say look at your own characters, pull one out, and see how that whole story would have looked.
Yeah, the big one that I always find, and I've been like super guilty with this, is like, for example, my series Talos of Sparta. The feedback that I got is that we didn't actually say the character's name enough, especially for a first issue. So people were reading the book and they're like, oh, this is cool, but they're like, oh, who is that again? Like, and type of thing. And it's like, it's so easy for because you read it all the time, because you know the story, to fall into that trap of, like I understand his name's just Guy, but how many times they say that throughout the film is very clever to kind of get you, automatically going, oh, Guy, and very quickly too. Like, it's that first 5 minutes of the film where he goes to each of the places and, and it's his routine and everything like that. So yeah, I find that quite a good tip. So
if we can pop up, I think Shane's latest comment, and I just want to touch base on that one. So, and hi Shane, thanks for joining us. Look, the trailer actually doesn't do the movie justice. It's actually one of the times where the trailer doesn't match the movie. Look, the trailer has all the fun elements. It's a Fortnite type clone. You see this person level up basically as it works through, but it's really so much more than that. If you haven't seen it, Shane, take 2 hours away. Definitely go watch it. I would highly recommend this movie. So.
And that's why I think I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, because I was like basing my whole opinion on that trailer, going, okay, I've kind of seen this before. It's, that boss level, he's leveling up. And then the actual movie is so much more than that. Like, that is just such a small part of the film type of thing when you consider the story start to finish. Like, that really is like a montage.
And that's the issue, isn't it? How do you sell something like that? How would you be able to, in like a 30 or 45 second commercial, say, oh, the relationships? Like, how do you do? And in a lot of ways, it's like you can't. So you almost have to go, you know what? Like, we're gonna sell the general premise and really just sell Ryan Reynolds and just hope that kind of takes it home, and then maybe it has this this second life or this explosion at some point.
And I guess that's a smart marketing tactic, because then it's like, well, what are the strengths of the film? Everyone knows, like, especially for kids, everyone knows what Fortnite is. So you're playing on a lot of that. And then you've got Ryan Reynolds as the main actor. So you're playing on his fan base. And then, there's a little bit of, okay, we're hoping that enough people will watch that and kind of tell other people that it then, kind of goes out there. Because did this have a theatrical release? It didn't, did it? It just went straight to Disney Plus.
It had a theatrical release.
It did.
I believe it. I believe it did. Well, maybe it did in the States.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got jack shit here for 2 years, mate. So.
Did you guys have theaters at that time?
No.
It did have a box office release. Wikipedia has the answer.
You were in Sydney, mate. You weren't in lockdown. I was the one in prison for 2 years. So, it was really disappointing, because a few of my mates were like, "Oh, have you seen this?" and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Well, no, mate. Well, the cinemas are closed here. I haven't seen that." Oh, it was okay. I get it. But I haven't seen it yet, kid.
I have a dear friend of mine who moved from New York City to Sydney in the last year. Shout out to Sophie. Much love to you, hun. And she did this. We went for a walk at one point. She goes for a walk and she's got her phone and we're FaceTiming. And your streets were empty. Like, she's in Sydney and it was empty. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, how are you supposed to enjoy this new city and all this stuff when there is nothing going on? I was like, ouch, that was rough. And that was just, like in the last, couple months and such. And I'm like, oh, dang. Like, I'm in Texas, which to our detriment, we didn't ever really shut down that bad. Like, we did shut down, but never like that. Sorry, we did for like the first, 2 weeks, and then that changed.
I've got bad news for your friend, though. If she's still in Sydney, we had the floods. So if you haven't checked up on her, it's probably worth you while check up on her. We had suburbs not shut down, evacuated. Like one of my neighboring suburb had an evacuation order, which is basically 7 p.m. Get the hell out of the suburb, because
oh damn.
Mother Nature's not very happy with us in the 3 years now. We've had 3/4 of our country burnt. We've been locked in our rooms for 2 years, and now we've flooded the southeast of Brisbane and southeast of Queensland and the north of New South Wales. Much love to everyone up there. Stay safe. I do see there a lot of stuff going on with the Red Cross you can give to them to help people in need. There are thousands upon thousands of people that actually don't even have anywhere to sleep tonight. So as much fun as we're having tonight and joking around, there are people that are doing it tough out there also. So.
Look, before we close off Free Guy, there is actually, and I don't know if you guys have heard, this makes me so happy. Shaun Levy, who directed Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, they are both coming back on Deadpool. So
yeah,
I am so excited.
Yeah,
the director of Free Guy has they're doing Deadpool. They've been given the green light for it.
What? How did I miss this? When did that get?
I don't know how you missed it. That was huge. Yeah.
So if you haven't heard it, like Sean hasn't, it's good news. So
jeez, I told you I had a big week. I've not been on social media and everything, but how I missed that, I'll never know. So
expect some solid character arcs, I guess, is what we're all thinking.
Yeah, but I did hear that they have got a Luke animated series coming out, like Clone Wars and Rebels. So I did hear that news. If you haven't heard that, so
and the Obi-Wan trailer dropped. I don't know if you see. Yeah. You at least seen that one.
Of course, mate. Of course, I've seen
Deadpool.
I have a pulse.
Yes. I was going through all my comics because I've got a couple of spare Inquisitor ones. So I was like, oh, should I flip those now or should I wait? So
Okay, so look, that's a good segue. Let's talk about look, you've worked, and I know you've done work for Marcosia as well.
Marcosia, yep.
Yep. So look, I know you've worked everywhere, I and one of the things I love about editing is, and we might as well specify it. It's for people who don't know, there is actually a whole different types of editing. The most boring one is what they call the line edit. And if people don't know what line edit is, going line by line, you missed a comma, full stop there, spelling there, grammar wrong, blah, blah, blah. That's probably the most boring of the edits, I would say. I take
Personally,
some people might find that the most exciting thing ever. I find it because at that point you can't usually change plot and you can't usually change anything. It's basically 99% done. Usually you're actually line editing on the finished artwork. So what usually happens, the letterer gives you, Chuck, here you go. It's going to print in 2 weeks. Pick up anything, and so I don't look like a complete idiot. That's
2 weeks if you're lucky. That's a long lead time usually for me. Usually it's like, dude, you got a couple days. Like, and really, if you could get this done tonight, that'd be excellent.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I bet it would, wouldn't it?
I know Stephen's laughing, but that's so what I do to him. Oh man, I got 10 pages to letter. Like there's not a huge amount of words. If you can get that to me tomorrow, that'd be great.
Because it's going to print tomorrow. But that's usually the most boring of. I'll take that back. It's the most methodical of edits. The one you coach.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the one. But the one which so that one we'll put to the side because there's not really too much to talk about in that one because you kind of just go, comma, full
read
stop.
a book.
Yeah, you didn't bold that word, blah blah blah. Go down. But the ones which I like are what they call the development edits, or I think there's if I get terminology wrong, correct me. But what they call the terminology edits or the dialogue edits. So it's the case where, and I'll give you an example where a dialogue edit, and again, it's not for you, it's for people listening. If, for example, in a particular world, there might be a god called, I don't know, Bob. And if that's the case in your world, if someone says, oh my God, they shouldn't say that. They should say, oh my Bob. Or, that's much more dialogue. Or a case where it goes, that's not how that guy talks or that girl talks. You got to change the speech patterns to match accordingly. So again, you're not really touching on the story itself so much, but you're actually changing the dialogue, or you look at the panel and going, that panel looks weird. His mouth looks like he's going to say something, but there's no dialogue there. You should add something. That's one type of edit, but the one I really want to concentrate is the development edits. How much fun do you have with that? And tell us do you do much of that, or is that? I would think that's the most fun.
It is, for me, it is the most fun. And that's the one. I mean, for me, I want to get in before you script. Like if we're talking about developmental, everyone I talk to, I say, where's your outline? And they'll go, well, I'm just going to go to script. No. Hold your horses, kiddo. No, move back. Give me an outline. And even if they're like, well, it's going to be a 4-issue series, great. Give me the outline for the whole series too. Well, I didn't hire you for the whole series. Yeah, I get that. But there's stuff that you have to touch on in this issue in order to make the payout in that last issue hit. So I don't care if you don't hire me for 2, 3, and 4. If you want 2, 3, and 4 to hit the way you want them to, we got to put that stuff in right now. So yeah, I love that. And like I said, outlines, I scream to the hills. Outlines, always have outlines every time. Huge.
So when you get the outline, how do you get them to do the outline? Because what they like, again, I've done some development edits for some people, and I always tell them, just use a 3-act structure. If you haven't done anything else, give me a 3-act structure and just say at different beats, at different points, just give me the beats and tell me what happens in the beats. Is that how you do it, or?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I want the main beats. I want to know where we're going. I want to know, what the story's going to look like. And the way I sell it to them is, how many times do you want to do this script? Because I'll tell you, if we do an outline, you're taking at least a couple of rough drafts off your table, because we're going to get those major gears, those major pieces fixed beforehand. Because you might say, you might say, we do this, we go into that scene, we go to that scene. I go, well, but that scene should maybe be over here. Imagine if you'd already scripted that, and then we have to pull entire scenes, and that sucks. And we've all had to do it at some point. I don't have to do it when I write because I outline every time, and I get my outline out to a couple of editors. Like, especially when I do Belial, I have 2 editors. We all go over it together, and we go, does this all hit and fit the way we want it to? No, okay, let's move stuff around, and that's all in the outline phase. So yeah, if you want to not have to do, those terrible 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rough drafts, let's break all that down in outlines, which literally an outline can be half a page of just point form notes.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stephen's always great in regards to when we've missed something, he'll be like, okay, we can't, redo to have already done some artwork, but we'll add an extra page in and try and get as much of that in, because, the more, I think it's always easier if it's your project, you're working with one other person, it's much easier. But when there's co-creators, when there's 3 or 4 people touching the script or anything like that, like all that becomes quite difficult. And, if you've never worked with each other before, I can imagine, as an editor that you're like, okay, guys, come back, give me those beats so that we can all be on the same page, so that we're going in the same direction. Is that kind of how you've done it, or have you only worked with a single creator at a time?
No, I've certainly worked with multiple people and whatnot. And I mean, yeah, the more people who touch it, the more difficult. And I have to tell you, I hate working with multiple editors. And I've told people before, pick one, and I don't even care if it's not me. I don't like, it doesn't, I have other work. Like, this isn't the issue. But the issue is that when you have multiple people, eventually you're going to be having multiple voices speaking out against each other. They're going to see it in different ways. You need to find the voice that kind of connects best to your voice, because at the end of the day, this is your story. You want it to be your voice. And so we need that to be as close as possible to what you had envisioned. Now, obviously, an editor is going to come in. They're going to have different thoughts, and they're going to have different takes on it. But hopefully, they're going to have your voice in mind. Morning.
Yeah.
Definitely morning.
He's Mark's from Scotland, not from Scotland. He's from New Zealand, but he lives in Scotland.
We adopted him because Australia.
Oh, I feel you.
Close enough. What's the time over there, Mark? Just drop in the chat. 10 o'clock now, or what's the time there for you?
Well, I'm guessing Moira's not here because she's at a convention at Aberdeen. So I think it's sometime in the afternoon over there at the moment. But which is cool. Now, we listed off a bunch of projects that you've worked on. I know that this is a really tough question, and that, but do you have one that you're like, I've worked on that and I absolutely loved that project?
I mean, I don't have one. You know what I mean? Like, when you've worked on as many projects I've worked on, I have a bunch, and they all kind of have different things that they've done for you, different ways of fulfilling you. Like Cat Dad and Supermom, I love being able to share that with kids and have them come up to the booth and laugh and giggle and have a good time with it. I've loved being able to show off, Cthulhu Invades Oz. That's one of those books. When I'm at my table, I have a bunch of books, and what I'll do is I'll give a quick 5-second pitch for each book. And what's terrific is I always put Cthulhu Invades Oz at the end, because I could just say, and Cthulhu Invades Oz. I don't have to give you a pitch. I don't have to tell you anything else. If you know those two properties, you know what that is, and you're either excited by it or not. It sells itself. And at that point, you can just, and I love it for that, is because people can just pick it up, and then I can give them, I can just kind of fill in the blanks a little bit, tell them about, this is, I think it's like 60 creators all working together to tell one fluid story through the anthology process, and people are like, whoa, and they get to see all these different art styles and that kind of stuff. But just 3 words, I get to pitch a book. Oh, what a great feeling that is.
Yeah. It's funny. I do a similar thing. I've got a book called Dead Man's Land. It's a werewolf and it's got a Nazi symbol on it. So it's literally, I do all my spills, which take a bit of time, and then they're like, what's that one? It's like Nazi werewolves.
Yeah, right.
Done. If you like, your World War II and your werewolves, that's the one. Then they'll ask other questions. But it's so funny because I've tried to like find that with my other creations, but there's not a lot of projects that just have that ability and that appeal that you're able to go bang. This is what it is. Type of thing. And going back to Free Guy, like what it was in the trailer is totally not what the movie is about. So even that is like, it's this guy is leveling up and he's in the game and he doesn't realize his game and blah blah blah, and that's quite a lengthy pitch and that. But how do you explain it any other way type of thing?
Yeah, like my best explanation would be like Truman Show meets Ready Player One.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, let's talk a bit about your writing, though. Like, is Belial the only thing you've written, or have you actually written any? Like, I know you've edited a lot, but have you actually had your hand scripting more than just Belial?
Well, so I did. I actually did Welcome to the Void first.
Okay, awesome.
And then Belial, which we're currently in art on issue 3. Super excited to get that one out. That book is because it's hell, but it's a hell comedy, and it's so like raunchy and fun. That book, putting it out, you just like, you put on this separate hat and you're like, well, I'm gonna be a terrible jerk for like the next month, and we're just gonna laugh, and I'm gonna say terrible stuff, and you're either gonna laugh or you're gonna be offended by it. And if you're offended by it, great, because the book's not for you. Like, that's fine. So I've got those ones, and then we did Essence House. Well, actually, it's Chronicles of the Essence Guard. It's multiple books, and what that is that started in January 1st, 2020. We launched the first episode. It was supposed to be an audio drama. And so our idea was each week we would put a new chapter, or I think it was every other week was the idea. We would put out a new chapter, and we were going to tell this ongoing story. And this was myself and my good buddy Eric Cockrell, and we were doing that, and we got a good portion of the way through season 1, and it was like gaining some traction, but it wasn't necessarily doing amazing. And I was like, look, man, we need to understand that at some point, people, the few people who do stick around, they're going to want some kind of ending. And if we just keep writing, then that's going to become more difficult. So my proposition was, hey, why don't we do because season 1 was already outlined out and done, and we were working on the outline for season 2, and season 1 had a very mean cliffhanger. And it was like, there's no way, like, you can't end it there. So I said, why don't we give it a nice, tight ending, leave some strands open and some room to play, but leave it, just kind of close it off and just go, okay, cool, that thing is done. And that way, if we only do 2 seasons and that's all that happens, great. And then we can do something with it. And at that point, we started to talk about we could just turn it into a book, novelize it, and send it out into the world. And actually, it started to pick up Steam. It's done really well. I think, oh my gosh, I think we're over like 8,000 downloads or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's done really well for itself. And so, yeah, we novelized the first 2 seasons and brought out Essence House. So now I get to say I'm an author. And season 3 is out and done. You guys literally, by the way, can find that on any of the podcasting networks. I'm sure even in Australia, it's on Apple, it's on Amazon, it's on all that kind of stuff. And season 3 is done, which then leads into season 4. And seasons 3 and 4, that's another book called Children of the Essence. And we're just going to keep kind of playing it like that and doing that until either we run out of steam or we just keep going on.
Now, can I ask a silly question?
Yeah.
With an audio drama, is that you just reading it as a book, or is it actually like the characters talking and like a live on like show drama?
So I believe when done the way that it usually is, it's usually more a drama with multiple actors and all that kind of stuff. We did not have the budget for that. So instead, we did it more like an audiobook. And so he is reading it, and he is kind of doing slightly different voices, the voice actor that we got, doing slightly different voices for some of the characters and stuff. And then Eric, who is also a video and an audio video engineer, he came in and he put noise sounds to it and gave it some music and some ambiance and whatnot. So it does have that feel, at least.
Perfect. Well, I've chucked the link in the chat. So if you're watching this on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, you can have a look. There's the amazon.com.au link and check it out there, which is super, super cool.
Well, and it's free, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. I'm like, hey, if you want to go buy the book, that's wonderful. But if you don't, just check out the audio drama. And literally, you're talking about dozens of hours of entertainment, because we were very specific. We wanted each episode to be right around 20 minutes because we felt like that's like sort of the perfect drive into work. So you could drive into work, you could load up an episode, listen to that, and you're good. And if you have a longer drive, then maybe wait a couple weeks and binge it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you can come back to it or go back and listen to a couple of episodes over again, by all means.
That's what I loved about Comics Launch. My drive was 45 minutes, and his show went for about 40 minutes each week, either just under or just over. But it was just enough for me. Like, I might be rolling up into work, and I'd be like, okay, boom, I'll chuck it on for the next one as I'm ready to go home. So yeah.
Okay. Look, there's one more. There's actually quite a few things I want to talk to you about, but the next one I did want to talk to you about is basically overarching plot lines and basically how things. And I'll caveat the question first. So there are shows like Days of Our Lives, and we have a really good friend who appeared. He's actually one of the stars of the show. But Days of the Lives is structurally formatted to keep on going. You're talking like Amazing Spider-Man. It's always going to be there. They'll arch a plot line to the next one, and it'll just keep going on. Characters may change slightly, but not really. They kind of move. Like, Spider-Man will always be Spider-Man.
It's funny because those two things, we treat them the same way, but really, if you look at it, and I think one of the fundamental issues that comics are having now is that they're not. Because what's great is when you're watching a soap opera, those characters age and move on and die. And sadly, comics, we don't get that. So then you have a Spider-Man who has been 20 for 60 years, and you're like, nah, man, that's an issue.
Yep. And there's the other type of storytelling. I don't know if you watch many Korean dramas or Japanese dramas, but in those cases, and we're not talking the mangas, we're talking like the equivalent of Days of Our Lives. They have what they call just 12 episodes. In Korea, they usually have 16, but Japanese dramas usually 12 to 13. And there's no prequels, there's no sequels. It is just one story in 12 episodes or one story in 16 episodes. I think Netflix is probably the best example of that, where they just give you one season where the season may or may not continue. Like Stranger Things, you can just watch one season of that. Boom, 10 episodes. That's the whole story. there is a season 2, if you want to watch it. But guess what? Season 1 is beginning, middle, end.
Yep.
Boom. Which one's more fun for you? If somebody was to come to you and say, "Hey, look, I need an editor across this," what would you like? Something that drags and has that build of characters, or something that goes, in 10 episodes, they're going to save the guy, the hero's going to die, the villain's going to do whatever, and it's going to end. What situations do you prefer?
I don't know that I necessarily. I think that's what I love about being an editor and working on so many different things, that I don't have to choose. I get to enjoy all of that, and so I really, for me, it's about what suits this story, what works best to this story. You know what I mean? And so finding the right vehicle, the right method to tell this story, because sometimes someone will pitch something. Like, I've had people pitch stories, and I'm like, that's not a one shot. Like, what are you talking about? Now you left way too many. There's way too many things left hanging. There's way too many. I had one where they pitched me the first issue, and we went through it, and then this was one of those I wasn't able to get in early enough, where we got the outline and all that kind of stuff, and I said, "How many more issues do you have?" And they're like, "Maybe 2 more, but I'm gonna try to wrap it up in 1." I was like, "There's no way." I said, "Not unless you're doing like 100 pages. No." I said, "This really should be like 4 issues." And they were, "Really? I don't know if I can afford that." And I was like, "I get it, but this is the story you told. Like, you've opened up way too much stuff, and I just don't know how you're going to close them properly and in a way that your fan base is going to be excited by." And so sometimes you have to. That's why I hate when people go, "Oh, it's this is issue 1 of 3." Okay, if you know that, you better stick to that. You know what I mean? Like, really know what you're doing, and really kind of, yeah, there you go. Really kind of understand that. Okay, we said 3 issues. We need to know. And the problem is people pick these numbers out of their ass, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do it in 3 issues." Yeah, okay. Do you know what those other 2 issues are going to look like? And so, yeah, when you tell someone this is what we're going to do, I think you really owe it to your audience and to the story. Screw you, the story. You owe it to the story to really shape out that whole arc and go, okay, what is this going to look like, and how am I going to spread it over this many? Sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes you don't know how long it's going to go. Let's say, like, one of my favorite shows, and I know people dog it all the time, Lost. And people will dog it. But I love that show, and I don't care what anyone says. But fundamentally, it was always going to have a problem because they created this beautiful, gorgeous puzzle, and no one would ever let them know how many pieces it was supposed to be. They came in going, "We want to do 2 seasons." And CBS said, "No, it's going to be 10." And they were like, no, it's not. We're not doing 10. We'll bring it up to 3. And CBS was like, 9. And so they had to like really fight and work. And it wasn't until like literally, I think they were done season 3 when they came up with, okay, it's finished in 6. And then they knew exactly how many pieces, and they could start to wrap it up. But that's why you had so many pieces that didn't necessarily get taken care of, and so many things that kind of didn't get explained because they had to go into all this other stuff. So understanding what your arc is going to look like is so important.
Look, you mentioned Lost, so I'm going to jump in here. I'm sorry.
No.
You should have mentioned. I think the fundamental, and I think I actually sometimes wish you did know J.J. Abrams, because I would have loved you to talk to him at season 1, because he's on the record for saying he loves what they call the mystery box. If you ever heard him talk, I love hearing him talk. He's actually he's very insightful. But you can tell the error that he made. In Lost, he opened up a stack of mystery boxes. And like, he just goes, mystery box. How many more can I throw? And he basically threw out all these mystery boxes. But fundamentally, he himself in the beginning did not know how to close those mystery boxes. And he's on the record basically for saying, I think I opened too many because I didn't know how I was going to close up all of them. And that's the problem that you have with season 6, that as he's trying to wrap all these things up and all these boxes were already open, he's going, oh God, I can never close this out in a fulfilling way. The way he
well again, go back to the Star Wars trilogy. How can you write a trilogy but only know what you're doing in one film? Like it's going to be a trilogy. You're pitching it as a trilogy, yet you have no idea from 1 to 3 really what story you want to tell, because it felt like they were just making it up.
Are we talking about the new trilogy?
The new one.
I completely agree.
Type of thing. And again, that's JJ. And look, I love JJ Abrams as a director and everything. And I know that he would have had some input into the writing, but it was written by other people. But it still baffles me when you pay $4 billion for a franchise, and you're going to do a trilogy, and you don't think that it's a good idea to at least have the outline, as you go back, an outline of what the actual story arc is going to be. That just blows me away.
Oh, look, the absolute classic mistake they made in the sequel trilogies is Rey's heritage, if you will. It was a mystery box that he introduced in the movie number 7, let's say. Make the math easy. Movie number 7, he introduced the mystery box of who Rey's parents are. And then it was hinted at. It was like, was it Kenobi? Is she a Kenobi? Whatever. It was it got everybody talking, where it came. And number 8, it was then, she's nobody. It could have been anybody, it could have been you. She became every man, it could have been you. And the last one is like, oh no, we want to change that mystery box. She's now a Palpatine, or it's just.
But we don't want to end the Skywalker saga, so we'll just have her take the Skywalker name.
Right.
So, exactly. So if you're going to open a mystery box, and this is the one thing which I would say as an editor, or even as a writer, I would challenge them. If you're going to open a mystery box, in your head, at least have an idea of how you're going to close it. And that's where the Star Wars trilogy was horrible, because you opened this box, which was so instrumental, which is going to change one character's arc totally. And it went through 2 different changes. The movie 8's mystery box reveal of Rey's parentage, totally different from episode 9, movie number 9. And it's jarring.
Now, this flows straight into our Kickstarter tip and why it is important to have an editor from the start, because these are things, I always put my hand up and say that I get stuck in world building. I love world building. I love, building out the universe and all the different characters and what planets or people are around, or nationalities, and what religion they're doing and all that type of stuff. But, sometimes you need someone else to kind of rein you back in and go, what is the story you're trying to tell? How long is your story going to tell? And these may seem like really simple questions, but that's why a good editor is so good, because they pose these questions back to you that you might have thought of or whatever, but you haven't really answered. And is what type of advice would you give to a first-time creator going to Kickstarter, wants to release their first comic? What kind of advice would you, before they get to that stage, what should they do in regards to trying to find an editor or get their book up?
Find someone that you're going to work well with. Also, understand you're the boss. You don't have to listen to them. And that's something, look, you need to find someone that you want to listen to, but at the end of the day, it's still your book. And often people will get their hackles up and they'll say, I don't want to hire an editor because I don't want someone else telling me what to do in my book. They work for you. I can tell you to not write the book. I can tell you anything I want. You don't have to listen to anything. You don't have to take any of that advice. You do have to pay for it, sadly. So maybe find someone whose advice you want to take and learn from and all that kind of stuff. So maybe look at previous works they've done. Maybe, especially when you have a genre-specific book, maybe go, hey, who do we have some editors who have worked or work well in the fantasy field or whatever? And if you have someone who's just like, I can do whatever, and I have done whatever, I've done most of the different genres and stuff. But if someone were to come to me and say, hey, where are you strongest? I'd be like, actually, I think I'm strongest with drama. So any kind of horror, fantasy, especially fantasy, is my absolute. That's where I broke in and whatnot. That's my thing. So any of that kind of stuff, but certainly comedy, all that kind of stuff. Like I can do a bunch of stuff, but there are several, and there's other ones where I'd be like, yeah, romance isn't necessarily my strong suit. If you really need someone to kind of help you with that romantic angle, I might not be your guy. If you're making a manga, you might want someone who understands that structure a little better than I do, because I don't. I can help you with story and such, but even that has its own kind of feel and whatnot. You might want someone specifically who works with those sorts of books. So finding someone that works well with what you work with. The other thing, especially with Kickstarter, guys, I can't push this enough. Go to your editor, especially if you call it line editing, I call it proofreading. Especially if they proofed your book, then pay them a little bit extra, throw them some bucks, and have them proof your Kickstarter. Because there's nothing worse than me going to a Kickstarter and seeing that you can't spell, don't understand basic grammar. And if that isn't, if I see that and spot that right away, I'm like, if you can't even write on your Kickstarter, how can I expect you to write in a book? And people notice that stuff. My wife especially, she'll like send me random Kickstarters and be like, oh my gosh, check this out. It's so terrible. I can't pick up this book just because of the Kickstarter. And I would love to. And remember, we're trying to sell books. If you can't sell the Kickstarter, if you can't sell us that you're a good writer there, how are you going to do it in a book?
Yes, and Chuck has great advice on videos as well. If you ever want Chuck to have a look at your Kickstarter video, rip you to shreds live on air, he is the guy to go to. But seriously, well, I did a talk on the weekend at a convention, and one thing that I said is really important in this industry is resilience. And that resilience comes from, understanding that you are going to get some criticism at some stage in your creative career. And if you don't think you are, then you're very, very naive. But it's about how you take that criticism and move forward and deal with it. And I think editing is a little bit like that as well. You can get your back up, say, I'm not changing anything. Here's your money. Go away, blah, 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 blah. But the person you're paying is only trying to make your book better or help you make your own book better. So before you have that reaction, I always say stop, pause, take a breath, think about what they've said, and then respond. Now that's easier said than done, but I think if you're going to go out and pay someone to help edit your book, the last thing you want to do is being disregarding everything. And look, I know people that have done that, and I'm just like, well, that was $400 down type of thing. But it's all about a learning curve. We talk about this show about different tips and tricks, but it is all about learning. You got to make some mistakes along the way. If you don't, then I don't know who you are. You must be perfect.
Yeah, right.
Okay, look, we're coming up to the hour mark. I've been asking if anybody has any questions. This is probably your last chance to hit Chuck up for anything. You want to bring up some comments? I think there's one from Mark Abnett.
He's covering all the good stuff.
There you go.
I try.
And Greg just said, Chuck's wife is me when it comes to typos and errors.
See, yeah, Grace gets it.
Oh, Grace is fantastic. Every time I put something up or something, Grace is like, you need to change that. You need to fix that. And every time it's like, oh gosh, I love hearing from her because I'll just going, if I can fix it, I'm gonna fix it straight away. The ones I hate is if I'm out for the day and she sends me, oh look, you made a typo, you need to sort this out. I can't fix it until I get home, which is maybe 6-7 hours away. And I'm gonna look like an idiot until I fix it. I was like, no, but
I actually got a job because of that. A creator that I respected, he was showing off his Kickstarter and whatnot, and I'm reading through it, and right beside his name was publisher, and publisher was misspelled, and I was like, ooh, having like a misspelled word, especially like the word publisher right beside your name, like it's so glaring. And of course, you could ignore it, or you could openly lambaste them and just be like, oh, you can't even spell publisher. But I sent him a nice little comment, like over Messenger, and I just said, hey man, I'm just letting you know, I looked over this. I would want someone to tell me. And I said, it's a very easy typo. It's a very simple thing to do. But I know that I would be a little embarrassed if someone caught me. So just between you and I. And he was like, holy crap, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. I've been wanting to talk to you about editing anyways. I've got this one. And then we moved on from there, and I was like, oh, cool. But I never did it for that reason. Like, if he didn't hire me, the story would have been the same. And that is, dude, if you notice, I noticed something, and none of us wants that. I can quietly tell you. But, of course, if you have 50,000 problems, you've already, in my mind, you already gave up. You already decided, I don't care about that. So I'm probably not going to tell you, oh, this thing is just impossible to read, because you made in my mind, you made a choice.
Yeah. Well, I think that is looks like that is all the questions that we've had. So I have to say, mate, thank you very much for your time. I know it's extremely early where you are. I really appreciate you making the time to come onto the show. I think, it's flown by. I think we've talked for over an hour, but it's when you're talking about something that you're passionate about and giving all these awesome golden nuggets for people to be able to use, I really appreciate you coming on the show, mate.
I've been on shows with both of you where it was early in the morning for you, and I feel like this was karma. Like I had to, in order for our relationship to move forward, Free Guy style, I had to make my sacrifice. And so when SK got in touch with me, and he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be early," and I was like, "Oh, 5 a.m. Yeah, okay, all right. You know what? I've seen them do it. I got you. I'm excited to talk to all the amazing Aussies out there, and to whoever else might be up at what could be an ungodly time.
I got 2
you.
o'clock, 4 a.m., 2 or 4 a.m. to turn up to different things. I think
Right?
one I went on for you was, I can't remember, but yeah, no, I've done the 2 for.
I think yours actually, it was your lunch hour. I believe we actually ended up hitting you were like, I have 45 minutes for lunch. And I was like, well, let's do it. Yeah, we did a live show right during his lunch. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome, man! And if anyone wants to check out Chuck's work, we've chucked his Facebook link in again, which is Bonfire Press. So where is that the best place people can reach you if they want to work with you, or get an idea of someone else you might be able to point them in the direction to? Is that the best place to go?
You can certainly do that. You can find me at Chuck Pineau, Pineau. You can find me at my Facebook. You'll know it's me right away because you'll see this hairy mug probably. You can find me on Twitter at Chucky Pin. You can find me on Instagram. I don't do that one as much, but I will get it right away. Chuck Pineau on Instagram. And then, of course, as you mentioned earlier, I've got my own YouTube channel. I have a show. I know SK has been on there, but Shaun, we got to try to get you on there sometime. It'll be over a lunch hour, but we'll find a way to make it work, man. But yeah, I've got Chuck's Raw Reviews is my YouTube channel because it started as a review channel, but now I sit down with creators and just kind of do something like this. We talk and we have a good gab about the creative process and how to create. So there's so many amazing creators I've been able to talk to, and love for you guys to check it out. There's tons of great stuff to find there.
Yeah, I think what I love about you is that you're very open and honest with your dealings across social media and how you deal with other creators and everything. And one thing that I've kind of taken from you is about really understanding, giving back something. So, these type of shows, yes, they're great to promote your own projects and promote other people's projects and everything, but at the same time, you need to be able to, I feel, bring something to the table. And I know you've had a conversation around this before about your show. Is like, you get hit up all the time going, oh, I've got a Kickstarter coming out, can I be on your show? But there's nothing about, well, this is what I can bring, this is what I can talk about, and that type of stuff. And we appreciate our audience and our fan base, but we also want to be able to give back to them without kind of selling to them all the time. So it's great to kind of have these type of shows where you can talk about your projects and highlight certain things that you do, but you're also giving all these golden nuggets back to people. So again, mate, I appreciate your time. So
I love being able to do it. Thanks for honestly, guys, thanks for having me on. And I think that is something fundamental, is who wants to sit around and watch you sell for an hour? I mean, when we're at conventions, they're only there for like 5 minutes at your table tops. And that's if they really like you. Usually it's way less than that. So no one wants to watch you try to sell something for an hour. People are going to come in and out, blah, blah, blah. But if we're sitting down, we're having a talk, we're actually talking about things, and then we're also bringing up what you're working on, I just feel like that works so much better. And it's so much more honest. And yeah, thanks, man, Shaun. That means a lot to me. I think the community is really important to me, and you got to try to give back, because we're taking their money. The least you can do is give them some knowledge, give them some entertainment, because we are in the entertainment business. Any of that kind of stuff, if you can give it back, and I think that's what you guys are doing. And I really appreciate you guys having me on and being able to chat about what other people are doing and what we're doing. So thanks, man.
Awesome. No problem.
Thanks for coming on.
Hey guys, have a great night. Again, we go live each Sunday night at 10 p.m. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash that notify bell. Hey guys, have a good one.